So lately I learned that something which is known as hobby, that hobby can become your passion, and that passion can actually take you to a wider aspects of life. I still remember when I was just in class 5, I wrote one poetry, that is a Hindi poetry, and my father appreciated it, and that was my first published work, which I still have somewhere in my cupboard. I have kept those things. I was still knowing that thing as my hobby. I wrote multiple poetries by then. I completed my college, I did my engineering. I pursued writing just like my hobby, unknowingly that it's a passion which is hiding behind the rat race of being an engineer. It's lately happened that when I was 36 years of age, I was once driving along with my wife and I just narrated her one story and told her that it's a story which should be made into a movie or should be made into a book and someone should actually read it. And she just said me that why you want that someone should write this story? Why not you? And that's what something which clicked me. And I decided to write a book. So this is how my first book happened, that is Recollecting the End. It's a story which talks about 1971 war. I just wrote that book unknowingly about anything about publishing industry, anything about books, anything about marketing, anything, nothing. I don't know anything about that. I just wrote that book, and few of my colleagues read that and they said, "Yo, you write good. You should continue writing. You are writing good story." That is something which actually pinched me or clicked me. And so I just searched my bucket and saw that I am having a book ready with me, that is Chariots of Mahabharat, which I wrote when I was in class 10th. So I just picked up that book. I again rewrote on my laptop, re-edited it, added some more things into it, and gave it to another one. And that book too got published without even I did any post on social media that I have written a book. Then number of books came. My Mute Girlfriend, I am always here with you. She Raised Her, Rhythm Roger, You Are Still the One. So all these books which you are seeing on the screen have been written by me. So what happened? How these all things happened? So when I wrote my second book, that is Chariots of Mahabharat, and the first one, Recollecting the End, the one question which came into my mind when I entered into this industry of publishing, that what exactly is publishing all about? And then this question, or the biggest question which I found, that there are two type of publishers, a self-publishing company and a traditional publishing company. Now I was too confused. Maybe aspirant authors who are sitting here, they might be too confused about this. What exactly is self-publishing and what is traditional publishing? So in simple words, there are publishing houses which are 25, 30 years old. They actually do not charge authors for publishing their work. They actually look into your work. They actually give a selection process, and then they will take up your work if it should be published or not. So they are traditional publishers. You can count them on fingers, like Fingerprint, Srishti, Penguin, Harper, Westland. There are hardly few traditional publishers. And then there is a big set or big lobby of self-publishing companies. They are actually a printing companies. Along, you can see them, the some have grown up to a good level. You can select the package. You can just give them, okay, there are various packages they will offer you. According to the package, you will submit your script. Most of them are selected, and your book will be published, available on online platforms. If you have taken a higher package, some of your books will be available in bookstores too. So that is self-publishing. Now, my first two books, I self-published them. I Recollecting the End and Chariots of Mahabharat. Because till then, I was not aware about this industry, nor I wanted to be an author. For me, getting my name over a book cover was something what I was trying to achieve at that time. So I just published those two books, and I was happy. Until one day, I was in Jabalpur in one of my friend's marriage, where my friend and my wife, they were saying me, okay, you have written a thriller, you have written a mythology, but Indian authors, Indian audience, they actually want to read romance. We all love Shah Rukh Khan. So my wife said, okay, write about your own story. I wrote My Mute Girlfriend. And this time I was little conscious about self-publishing and traditional publishing. And then how I contacted those publishers. I actually started searching about the traditional publishers over their websites. And I luckily understood the process. Every traditional publisher, they have a fixed guidelines of the submissions. You need to submit 3 chapters, you need to submit a proposal, a marketing plan, and all those things. So I started submitting them. I submitted to almost most of the traditional publishers. And the timelines for traditional publishers is 6 months to a year for a revert, and that too for rejection. They will give you a very gentle mail after a year saying that your work is very elegant, very good, but somehow it's not suiting to our marketing budget this year. So I was getting many rejections by then, but luckily I got a call from Srishti Publishers saying that they want to publish this book, My Mute Girlfriend. And I was on my cloud nine because now I am having a traditional publisher with me, which is officially giving me a tag of an author. So I went up to Srishti, we signed up a contract, and my book got released, My Mute Girlfriend. And on the day when it released, I was again on cloud nine because it was running a top 100 charts over Amazon. Next day, I got an offer from Prabhat that we need to convert this book into an Hindi translation. And over a night, I started getting n number of messages from readers, from girls, from boys. I still remember at 2 o'clock in the night, I got a call from someone. He was crying. He was crying and he was actually wanting to talk to me, and he was saying that he is having a similar sort of condition in his romance and he wants some guidance from me. Readers, if they are touched by your work, they will definitely call you. And generally, my books, in every book, I give my mobile number. All my contacts are available there. So, for me, being a new to industry, I have never done any workshop or training. And I know there are many workshops and trainings available in market where you can learn writing. So my view on that point is there are two part of it. One is that there is something which is God gifted. Like when I'm writing something, I live with my characters. I can see my characters standing behind me. I can see my characters talking to me. I can see them in dreams. I can feel them around me. And I think this is something which is God gifted. I can feel my characters. Sometimes I'm just sitting idle and my wife says something to me and then she says, I have said this 3 times and you're not listening. So tell her that, okay, I'm really sorry because I was talking to someone else. And that is what has been, it's a God gift. Now, what you can do in workshops and trainings is actually you can learn how to write, how you can phrase your sentences, how you can connect with your audience, how you can do a more grammatically correct script you can write, how you can phrase your sentences, what should be the word length. All those things you can obviously get by trainings. But if you are planning to write a book, start thinking like your characters. You need to sleep more because if you sleep more, you will get more ideas. This is what my mantra. I generally get in my story ideas in my dream, and I always wake up my wife in the morning. Okay, I got a new idea. Jaldi jaldi suno. And if she says, okay, no, this is a good idea, I'll write that book. If she says, na, begar hai, bakwas hai, I'll drop that. That is the simplest thing. So when I'm writing a book, I'll generally my process of writing is that I start writing at around 11 o'clock in the night. I'll continue till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And once you are finished with that book, you need to write multiple drafts because when you're writing, you should write in a flow. I just write in a flow without keeping in mind that what's going to happen there or what has been missed out of it. So I'll just continue writing it. When I was writing She Erased Her, that book, if I recall, I started writing in 2018. I wrote it to a long length and then I stopped writing it. Then after some time I realized, okay, now sure, again start. I again started that writing and then again I lost it and I left that book. Finally, during COVID time, I was free. There was nowhere to go. So I started writing from the way I have left it behind. And luckily that book finished. And then I read it 2 or 3 times. And then the final draft was ready. And then I could realize, okay, now all the points which were lost somewhere are connected to them. So there are many portions of drafts you need to write about your story when you are writing it. And then comes the process of editing. So when it's submitted to editor, then it's the toughest part. So at last, when you'll finish editing, the author himself gets bored reading its own novel because it takes somewhere around 6 to 7 rounds of editing. So editor will make some changes. He will send you back the script asking that, okay, which are the changes acceptable or which are not. I need to reread all my complete script. I need to again send her back. And this continues for next 6 7 months unless I'm like thorough about each and every line of my book. And I'm frankly telling you, till last I don't read it. I said, okay, it's fine, perfectly fine. But I'm too bored about reading that. So once the editing is completed, then comes the story of cover. So most of you must have visited bookstores. And when you're visiting a bookstore, only two things we generally see while buying a book. One is the author name. So obviously, if it's written there Chetan Bhagat, or if it's written Durjoy or Ravinder or Amish Tripathi is written there, obviously people pick that book up. Second thing comes the cover. So if author name is not known, we'll obviously go with the book cover. So if it's an attractive book cover, it's giving some sort of gist of the story, we'll go and pick up that book cover. So these are the two important aspects of any book to get sell. And book cover plays a major role into it. And designing a book cover and getting a concept out of it, it's very time taking. You Are Shilda One is a story of a 17-year-old girl. She's suffering from cancer. She meets a boy who is 21 years old, just passed out from IMA, and he motivates her. His friends motivates her to fight cancer, and she comes out of that. It's a very motivating and a romantic story. So now, when we were deciding for its cover, we made almost 4 to 5 drafts. And finally, we land up with a cover which is in a pink shade and a bald girl with a rose on her head stuck with a band-aid. So that the concept behind it, that okay, there's a girl who is facing cancer, but still there is a hope alive in her life by a boy. So while we design a cover, it should give a positivity to the readers. It should give hope to the readers, and that's the reason books get picked up. If it's a cancer story, if I would have just made a cancer girl with dull eyes, people would have not picked up that book, thinking that okay, it's a dull story. So you need to keep in mind when you are drafting your covers. Those are very important part, very important aspect of a book. And lastly, the most important part of any book is the marketing. Most of the authors who come up with their one book, they vanish after first or second book. And they don't sell even 100 copies. And this is the truth. In Indian market, we say that readers are not available. I'll not say that. Readers are available. There are still Chetan and Amish who are selling in lakhs. There are readers available. Then only these books are getting sold. But the authors don't know how to market their book. Unless reader has not read about you, unless reader has not seen your book cover, unless reader don't know your name, a book cannot be sold. So it's always said between the author community that book never sells. It's the author who is selling himself. So if author is known to everyone, book obviously will pick up in the market. So whatever you're writing, you need to research it properly. That is one of the biggest factor. So I have written a book called Rhythm Roger. It's a series of 8 books. However, till now it's only 2 parts which are out in market. So I've written this book about electromagnetic radiations. There's a separate world called electromagnetic radiations world where Facebook, Google, and all the characters live in that world. And the complete story scenario is of Finland. You will find hundreds of hertz there and many other scientists who are actually playing part in there. While writing that book, I did lot of research. So although I'm an engineer, but I have lost that engineering terminologies and everything far behind. So when I was writing this book completely about electromagnetic radiation, scientists, there are various telegraphs and all those things, I did a minute study about it so that when my readers are reading that, they should not be lost only in fantasy. They should understand the science behind the fantasy. And that's how this Rhythm Roger book happened. Even if I'm writing, I have written recently You Are Shilda One, which talks about a cancer patient. The research, the minute level of research, what has been done, that how a cancer patient feels. My mother passed as a cancer patient when I was writing this book, and I felt those emotions what she felt. I was accompanying her to the hospital during her chemo or during her cancer treatments, and that time I minutely noticed what medicines they gave, how doctor treat a cancer patient, what sort of emotions they have at that time, and all those things are cultivated into a story. So whenever, if you are any aspirant authors, if you're planning to write something, write that deep, that actually that should connect to your readers. I'll only say at the end that pursue your hobby, and if you have a hobby, decide whether that hobby is a passion, and if it's a passion, please follow and run behind that passion. Otherwise, someday you will feel yourself sitting as a misfit between doing something else which is not your passion. Thank you.